Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Karen Etkin. I'm a gerontologist and the founder of thegerontechnologist.com, a website that covers the global age tech ecosystem. I'm here today to give a talk on the topic of cognitive care technology and technologies that help people with dementia. First of all, I would like to start by setting the agenda. So what are we going to talk about today? First of all, we're going to talk about the difference between MCI, mild cognitive impairment, and dementia. Then we can discuss some of the challenges people with cognitive decline experience. And then we're going to talk about some of the awesome solutions that exist today for helping people with cognitive decline. So without further ado, let's get started. So what is the difference between MCI and dementia? MCI, mild cognitive impairment, is actually quite common. Up to 42% of people over the age of 60 are affected by mild cognitive impairment. It is defined as the stage between the expected cognitive decline of normal aging and the more serious decline of dementia. What is dementia? Dementia is defined as a decline in cognitive function that is severe enough to cause the loss of independence in daily function. So, although dementia is not as common as MCI, it's only 5 to 8% for people over the age of 60. It actually has more severe consequences on day-to-day life. And as the population ages, we're going to have more and more people around the world diagnosed with dementia. We're expected to have about 150 million people diagnosed with dementia globally by the year 2050. So, what are some of the challenges associated with cognitive decline? The first challenge is actually assessing people's cognitive situation and preventing further cognitive decline. So we know that a healthy lifestyle can actually reduce the risk of developing certain types of dementia. And we also know that cognitive training has the potential to slow down cognitive decline. When it comes to independence, it's tricky because people with dementia, although they may be physically okay, they might find it challenging to perform even the most basic activities of daily living, getting dressed, eating, and taking a shower. People with MCI, it's slightly different because with mild cognitive impairment, they may lose their ability to perform instrumental activities of daily living. So managing their bank account and paying bills might be challenging for people with MCI. Quality of life is a major challenge for everyone as they age and cognitive or physical decline starts. And for people with dementia, meaningful time use through activities focused on their interest, social engagement, and creating an environment that allows meaningful connection with other people is extremely important. So let's start with the first challenge, assessing and preserving cognitive functions. I decided to roughly divide tech companies who are solving this issue to two categories. The first category that we see on this slide is direct-to-consumer offerings. So the companies presented here are marketing their products direct-to-consumer. So every one of us sitting in this room can go onto their website or download an app and either use it ourselves or help a loved one who has cognitive decline or dementia use the app or other service. So Brain HQ is an online headquarters for brain workouts. And CogniFit offers a scientifically validated task system for precisely measuring and training cognitive skills. And those are two direct-to-consumer offerings. And the third one is actually Effectivate, which is an Israeli company. So they developed a cognitive training program that leverages neuroplasticity, and they're marketing it for people 55 years old and older. So even people who are not yet old and they don't have any type of cognitive decline, they can log on to Effectivate's website and use some of their games to exercise their brain. Neurotrack developed a digital cognitive health solution for people that they can assess, monitor, and strengthen their brain health with the hope of reducing the risk of Alzheimer's and other dementia. Virtually actually developed a virtual reality tool that is based on VR goggles for brain training. And remember when I said that a healthy lifestyle can actually be protective against some forms of dementia? MindMate has an app that people can use not only to exercise their brain, but also their body. So they have brain exercises and physical exercises and also wellness tips. The second category for cognitive assessment technology is actually directed towards healthcare providers or payers, which can be insurance companies. So Savonic delivers the first scientifically proven consumer-style app that provides information about your brain health and wellness. So they assess many areas of cognition through a game-like versions of gold standard neurocognitive tests. BrainCheck, on the other hand, offers neurocognitive assessments and cognitive care management for private practices, so for doctors. MindYou and Winterlight use a different approach. They are actually using speech, or rather speech monitoring. They monitor people's speech patterns, and they use those speech patterns to assess people's cognitive function and to provide the means for intervention for healthcare professionals. So MindYou actually has a bot that calls people on their phone. It's called My Eleanor. So using AI, My Eleanor assesses brain activity and provides care teams with health-related insights. Winterlight does a similar thing over a tablet. So their tablet-based assessment is a tool that, by using speech alone, can detect cognitive impairment that's associated not only with dementia, but also with mental illness. And their assessment can be used in scientific research, senior care, and clinical settings. The next challenge we have is independence. So, as we said, people with dementia are affected. Their ADLs, activities of daily living, can be affected, and people with mild cognitive impairment can even be impaired in their ability to perform IADL, so instrumental activities of daily living. And we have quite a few startups tackling these issues from different angles. So we've got tech companies who are developing medication adherence tools. So, for example, AdhereTech, they use a smart pill bottle that looks like a normal pill bottle, and they send reminders either to people's phones via text message or through an automated call. And their goal is to be a seamless piece of technology that simply helps people take their medications on time. Ace Age has a pill dispenser, a smart pill dispenser. It's called Carry. So it organizes, schedules, and dispenses pills with a one-button click. So it ensures people are taking the right medication at the right time. SoundMind and LifePod have solutions that are based on smart speakers. So SoundMind is actually based on an Amazon Alexa speaker. So it's a voice-activated care assistant that can be used by the caregiver. And the smart speaker is actually placed in the senior's home. And it helps with social isolation, and it helps keep everyone connected. And when the caregiver installs the SoundMind's device, they can also check in on their senior, and just to make sure that they are interacting with Alexa, remind them to take their medication, and just remotely make sure that everything is okay. LifePod have their own smart speaker, and it's a proactive voice caregiving service. So they provide insight, like I said, on functioning, and it's both for the professional and family caregiver to provide them with peace of mind and also the ability to interact through the smart speaker. The final type of solutions I would like to talk about when it comes to independence are around transportation and deliveries. So we know that transportation and mobility generally are huge issues as people age and as they decide to decline, either physically or cognitively. So GoGo Grandparents has actually been around for several years. So it's a phone service that people can call to get an Uber. It sounds easy, right? Recently, they also added the option to get meals and grocery delivered. All people have to do is pick up the phone and ask for the type of service that they wanted. And of course, the caregiver can also call the service and order either a taxi or the meals for their loved one. Onward Rides is a startup that launched last year, and they're actually doing a ride-sharing service that is slightly different than what we know today. So Uber and Lyft, they offer curb-to-curb service, which means that you have to wait outside your house for the taxi, and they also drop you off at your location. And Onward offers a door-to-door service. So their drivers go up to the person's home, help them get out of the home, get down the stairs, get into the car safely, and when they drop them off, they do the same. They help them get out of the car and get to where they need to be, door to door. What's unique about Onward is that some of their drivers are actually retirees. So you could say that they're solving two problems. One is the problem of transportation. By the way, they also do medical transportation and deliveries. And the second problem is employment. People retire, and sometimes they either want to continue to work for an extra income, or they just don't want to be sitting in the house. They don't want to volunteer. They want to keep on working. So Onward provides them with this opportunity on a flexible schedule. Voyage is a really, really interesting company because they are developing autonomous vehicles. So their robo-taxi is currently being used in senior living communities in the United States. Personally, I believe that autonomous vehicles are not only the future for all of us, but I think they're going to be amazing enablers for independence and aging in place as people age and they can no longer drive. Last but not least, quality of life. We all know that maintaining quality of life can be challenging as people age, not only for people with dementia, but also for people who are physically declining. So we have quite a few startups who are tackling this issue of quality of life. And I just selected 4 for this slide because I think these 4 are the most relevant for people with dementia. So the first would be Together, which is an Israeli startup. They actually developed an algorithm that measures people's mood, happiness, and stress levels from their smartphone or tablet built-in camera. So they use face recognition to measure people's moods. After that, they use an AI engine to choose the right music for the desired emotional state. After that, they monitor the emotional condition and they show alerts and any abnormal conditions. Syncfit has been around for quite a few years, and they're actually an award-winning music therapy program, not only for residents in senior living, but also for their guests. Their musical health technology, their flagship product is called Syncfit Prime. So it was designed by music therapists, and it's for senior living communities, and staff members are trained on using Syncfit Prime, and they provide them with methods on how to engage residents through a musical journey that uplifts not only their mind, but also not only their body, but also their spirit. Dementia is a really interesting company as well. So they developed a personalized activity game on a tablet. It's called Diva World. So it's a cognitively friendly virtual world that's designed for behavioral and cognitive health support. Remind Me Care is the last company that we're going to talk about today. Is an activity app also for families, for individuals, or for care professionals. So it supports seniors with dementia or MCI, and it provides activities, support, and therapy. Right now, because of COVID, they're offering their app free of charge in the App Store. So those were some of the most interesting startups that are tackling the issues of cognitive health and dementia using technology. If you have any questions, now is the time.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. My name's Adam and I am the co-founder and CEO of UMPS Health. This is a picture of my grandpa, my dad and I. Hopefully from that picture you can tell who's who. After my grandma passed away, my grandpa lived at home alone. And I won't say he thrived, but for several years he managed to get by. And then in 2016, he had his first major fall. This happened while he was putting the bins out, and fortunately he lives on quite a main road, so someone was driving past, called an ambulance, and he was taken to hospital. There were no major breaks, but he was having issues with balance, so he needed to undertake some pretty serious physical rehabilitation. When he came out of hospital, we were surprised at how much frailer he was compared to when he'd gone in. My dad, my sister and I, we're the family that lived the closest to him. And we wanted to support him to stay living in the home that he'd been in for more than 60 years. So we stepped up the level of care that we were giving to him. However, because we couldn't be there during the day and we had to fit the care around our work, we missed some key indicators that his health was declining, and he fell again and he went into hospital again. This is a story that's personal to me, but it's by no means unique. In Australia, 1 in 3 Australians over 65 will fall every year, and it leads to more than 100,000 hospitalisations each year. Now, we were providing a lot of support to my grandpa, but we sought to augment this by accessing formal aged care services. In Australia, this involves applying for an assessment through a central portal, after which my grandpa was placed on the wait list for a home care package. But there lies the problem. Today in Australia, there are 120,000 people on that wait list. In 2018, 16,000 people died waiting for the level of home care that they needed, and 13,000 people entered residential care without receiving the appropriate level of home support. And then if they do enter residential care in Australia, they have about a 50-50 chance of entering an aged care home that's operating unsustainably. Yes, 53% of aged care homes in Australia are operating at a deficit today. Beyond just the funding shortage for aged care in Australia, we also have a chronic workforce shortage here. The Productivity Commission has estimated that our aged care workforce, currently 350,000 people, will have to triple to more than 1 million by 2050. It's very clear to me that aged care in its current form is not only not meeting demand today, but it certainly won't scale to meet demand in the future. And so the only way that we're going to continue to support older people, to give them the care that they need in their home, is by innovating. Innovation has become an existential imperative for aged care in Australia. And I believe that digitalisation, and specifically the emergence of the Internet of Things and AI, have a key part to play in realising the future of aged and healthcare services. Before I founded UMPS Health, I worked at Ericsson, and this is a quote from the former CEO. This slide perfectly illustrates how quickly things are changing. In 1876, Alexander Bell was awarded a patent for the first electric telephone. And from that point, it took 100 years to connect 1 billion places. In the early 1980s, the first mobile communication network was rolled out, and from there it took 25 years to connect 5 billion people. Today, the rollout of 5G has commenced, and this is all about connecting not people, but machines. And by 2024, Ericsson anticipates there'll be more than 31 billion connected devices. So it's hard to visualize 31 billion connected devices, but already today in Australia, the average household has more than 17 connected devices. And that number is projected to grow to 37 per household by 2022. What are all these connected devices? It goes beyond just our phones and our laptops. One example is smart home technology, and this is Telstra's smart home. Telstra played a leading role in connecting places and people in Australia. They're a mobile network carrier. Now they've broadened their offering to include smart home devices like connected light bulbs, motion sensors, locks, and thermostats for things like energy management and security. This is Fitbit's Aria 2. It's a connected scale, but it does a lot more than just measure your weight. It measures your body fat percentage, your BMI, your lean muscle mass, and it sends all this information to the cloud so you can access it from anywhere. Fitbit also have connected wristbands which monitor sleep health, your heart rate and physical activity, and they present all of this information in a dashboard. Now, I've used Fitbit as an example because it can start to open our eyes to the possibility of using all of these connected devices in the future delivery of health. We're only at the beginning of the adoption of what's called the Internet of Things, this merging of cyber and physical systems to create a network of billions of connected devices. Now, at UMPS, we work with connected devices all the time. And even with just 17, it wouldn't surprise me to see hundreds of data points from a single home in a day. And as we've started to work with more households, the data starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, a lot of that value of this data lies not only in looking at just one household's use, but also analysing households in similar clusters or cohorts, looking at patterns emerging between households. So with billions of data points, how do we turn all of this data into meaningful, actionable insights? Now, this is where AI comes in. Artificial intelligence is the domain of computer science that seeks to replicate human intelligence and give machines the power to make decisions. This is a graph I've developed from some research that came out of Oxford University in 2017. It surveyed hundreds of AI experts and asked them when they thought machines would outperform humans at certain tasks. Time is along that horizontal axis up the top, measured in years from 2016, and the different tasks are down the vertical axis there. The median estimates of the experts are shown in those hollow dots, and those coloured lines represent the spread of estimates. The AI of science fiction, the AI of a utopia, this is called artificial general intelligence or strong AI. That point is represented by the task high-level machine intelligence. That's the point where machines can learn and understand like humans do. Reaching that point is going to unlock a new frontier of human evolution. The median estimate for reaching that point is approximately 45 years from 2016 or around 2060. Depending on your perspective, that's either a long time away or a very short time away. Now, this general AI contrasts with artificial narrow intelligence, and this is the AI of today. Narrow AI is not conscious, it's not sentient, it's not driven by emotion the way that humans are. It operates within a specific structured domain, and it's based primarily on using large amounts of data to train a machine to generate outputs in terms of decisions. You can see that as time goes by, the domain in which the AI is able to operate within widens. AI experts estimate that machines would outperform humans at Go in 2025, then be able to perform the functions of a retail salesperson, followed by the ability to write a New York Times bestseller. This progression is driven by an increase in processing power, computing power, but also AI techniques, but primarily by our ability to collect training data sets that we can teach these machines. Interestingly, this research was published in 2017, the same year Google's AlphaGo first beat the best human on earth at Go. So the AI that we're talking about, it's not the AI from utopia or dystopia. It requires people to frame problems. It needs to work in a structured environment and have access to large sets of data. It's very much statistics really bumped up a notch. So it's not that scary until you read figures like this. The Australian Computer Society estimates that 2.7 million Australians are currently working in jobs that could be completely automated within the next 15 years, driven largely by the emergence of narrow AI applications. But this automation is not going to affect everyone equally. It's going to disproportionately affect some professions, and it helps for us to understand which ones. This is another piece of research from Oxford University defining the jobs most likely to be automated. You can see up the top we have tax preparers and telemarketers, so it's not all bad news. Then we have taxi drivers as autonomous vehicles emerge, and then jobs in the financial services. We can also look at the jobs least likely to be replaced by machines. And typically we think of programmers and engineers because we need people to build these AI engines. But further down the list is where it gets more interesting. We see nurses, occupational therapists, social workers. All of the caring professions are the least likely to be automated. So I'm up here to talk about how AI and the IoT can be used to support the delivery of care. But we have a tension point because the research suggests that the very last thing that technology will be able to do is care for people. So how do we reconcile this? Well, at UMPS Health, one of the first things we did when we started to build our product was go out and speak to people. We spoke to older people, families, and clinicians about what it meant to deliver care. And we mapped this process and we found that regardless of whether someone's a nurse, a doctor, a radiologist, or even just a family member caring for a loved one, that act of caring follows a pretty distinct workflow. First, in order to provide care, you have to obtain data. You have to know about the well-being of the person. If you're a healthcare worker, you might gather data through your consultations with patients or speak to them. Second, we need to analyse and interpret this data, often in the context of your clinical training and the existing evidence base, as well as someone's health history. Once we've analysed the data, then we determine a recommended course of action. And only once those first 3 steps have been satisfied can we then implement the truly human element, that act of caring. We also asked people about the time spent caring and on the individual tasks associated with that, and found that 70% of people's time and their cognitive effort was on these first 3 steps. Gathering data and analysing it is time-consuming. It relies on the ability to assess data in the context of large amounts of historical data, and often it benefits from access to real-time data. Step 1 and 2 in particular are also very repetitive and can occur in more structured environments and defined processes. And all of this makes those tasks the perfect things for machines to augment. And so when people ask me about how technology will support the delivery of care, for me it's not so much about robot seals or social robots for companionship. The big change happens when we use increasingly sophisticated connected devices and AI techniques to improve our access to data and our ability to use that data, freeing up humans and our workforce to spend more time undertaking step 4, that truly human element of care. And at UMPS, this is what we focus on doing. So I opened the presentation with a picture of my grandpa and told you about his first 2 falls. At the time, I looked at technology to see what was available to support him, but found that he already had the industry standard in incident detection, a pendant worn around the neck and pressed in case of an emergency. The problem with that is that we only find out about something after it happens, and the kicker was that on both those occasions when he fell, he wasn't wearing it anyway. So we set out to build something new, something that would work for him, something that didn't rely on him to wear anything and was really non-intrusive. My grandpa was the first person to use it. We all call him UMPS, and that's where the name UMPS Health comes from. UMPS uses a suite of smart plugs that fit between any appliance and the wall to measure when people interact with those appliances, like boil the kettle, cook using the microwave, or open and shut the refrigerator. Then our analytics platform builds up a picture of a person's behaviour and identifies subtle deviations in more than a dozen factors that indicate a decline in health. And this is data from one of our users. She's 88 years old, she lives in Melbourne, and she's got UMPS on the fridge, the TV, the kettle, the microwave, and a bedside lamp. Now you can see that she usually gets up at around 8 a.m. and uses the kettle. There are those purple dots there. The grey dots are the fridge, and she uses that on average 19 times a day. And she watches TV in the evening on Mondays to Fridays at 6 p.m. on the dots. That's these yellow dots here at 6 p.m. And then on weekends, she's a little bit less consistent, and that 5-2 pattern is something that we see quite a lot across all of our users. This red diamond here is an alert that we raised. Now, that alert was raised because a narrow AI application identified that this woman had only opened the fridge 3 times by 1 p.m. that day. This AI had been trained to use fridge data correlated to health states and knows that a change in appetite could indicate a range of health issues. But what's more, the algorithm also identified that the microwave hadn't been used the night before. That also related to appetite. This alert went to this woman's daughter, who dropped round to check in on her mum and found her coughing and wheezing and feverish, and so took her to the hospital where she was diagnosed with pneumonia. You can see that this gap in the data there, that's where she was hospitalised. And then when she gets back home from hospital after several weeks, it takes nearly 5 weeks for her routine to begin to stabilise. This level of real-time data collection is only possible through the use of connected devices, and correlating changes in activity with health states for particular cohorts is only possible through the use of narrow AI. But creating these opportunities for intervention in care are critical because the mortality rate of people over 65 with pneumonia sits at around 30%. That pretty much brings my presentation to a close. I've spoken about the challenges of delivering care in Australia. I've defined the IoT and artificial intelligence, and I've talked about where we can apply narrow AI to increase our capacity to care for people. I'd like to leave you with a brief clip of an interview I recorded last month with Diane. In Australia now, more than 40 aged care providers have chosen to put UMPs in place in response to COVID-19, and Diane, her mum obtained UMPs through one of these care providers. And where have you actually installed the smart plugs?
Yeah, we put them on the kettle, on the fridge, the microwave, the TV, and a lounge room lamp. The lounge room lamp is a good one because we know that she's not sitting in the dark, because she tends to just, now she sits on the couch and she sleeps most of the day. So it's good to see that she's turning on the light when she realises it gets too dark. So that's kind of good for us.
How did you find setting it all up?
Oh, really easy. Really, really easy. My husband and I went across to Mum's and I just sat on the computer and he plugged the plugs in and we just entered everything in. It was really simple and really easy to use.
And how would you describe what it's meant for you and your sisters and your mum to have access to this technology, particularly during coronavirus?
What it's meant for us. It's, like I said before, it's been a godsend. It has put peace of mind for myself and my 3 sisters. We each look at the UMPs on our telephone, on our mobile phones, many times during the day. You know, from the time we get up, we check to see whether Mum's up and what she's doing, whether she's had her breakfast, whether she's had a cup of tea. And we just check that through the whole day. So it's taken the pressure off us a bit, because we used to ring her a lot more, and she got to the point where she would tell people that, you know, her 3 daughters just ring her all the time and it's just too much. So this way we're still in contact with her, but it's much nicer contact. It's not, have you done this, have you done that, have you done something else? We can see what she's done. So it takes the pressure off us to ring her and nag at her to say, hey, you haven't done this, or you need to do this. It's just been great. I just feel so lucky to be able to use the system, and I think anybody who has a parent that suffers with dementia, it would be an amazing tool to use.
Brilliant. Thanks for listening to my presentation. I'm happy to take questions now. You can also get in touch with me directly at info@umps.com.
First of all, thanks to this organizer to give me a chance to show our eSkin. So in this picture, this gentleman is wearing the loungewear and he's in very casual style. And actually this loungewear is awarded as CES Innovation Award 2020 to monitor his daily life. So now we're Zenoma providing the IoT wears like this, and we named it eSkin. And today we're going to introduce you to utilize it as an gerontex. I'm Ichiro Amimori, co-founder and CEO of Zenoma. And Zenoma is a, Yes. So Zenoma is founded on November 2015, and it's been 5 years, and our revenue reaches over 2 million this year. And actually, we are selected as one of 4 top smart garment startups out of 507 global smart garment startups. And I think we are recognized as one of top smart apparel company in the world. So our core technology is to create a so-named printed circuit fabric. So we can create a printed circuit on fabric. And also based on our X-Wire technology, which is a highly durable, highly stable, stretchable electronics from the University of Tokyo. And also we have lots of connection technology to create very robust circuit on fabric. So now this technology is enables us to create a machine washable, very comfortable, and highly accurate sensor system on fabric. So if you see 2 videos on the left side, and top is a pajama, and the bottom side is the EMS, electrical muscle stimulation wear for fitness. So we already have some products, and our solution, eSkin, is kind of beyond wearable, which can provide us the more accurate and more variable data using full-time whole body sensing. But more important thing is it has to be comfort just like a regular wear. Otherwise, nobody will wear it. So our eSkin is very comfortable, and also we can put it in a washing machine, and we can use it just like the regular comfort daily wear. But we are aiming at the data service to collect the data from the users, and we are going to create the healthcare big data to provide a healthcare service to the users. That's our final goal. Okay, so these are our product portfolio. So we already showed you the M-Style EMS, and also we have the baby sensor, pajamas, and the motion capture pants, and now we also have the full body motion capture system. And we will have the Holter monitor system in 2021, and we can have lots of the e-skins in very, very many various markets. But today, what I really want to focus on is the gerontech. Because when we want to monitor people, of course, now we have lots of IoT things, but we do believe that eSkin is the kind of the best solution to monitor the elderlies. So the target would be online monitoring, frailty, and dementia. And I think that Caroline had introduced us a very nice dementia solution, which I will not talk about today. And I want to focus on, first thing is the online monitoring, and the second thing is the frailty. Before that, so I want to point out 3 very important things for elderly solutions. The first thing is the elderly monitoring. Yeah, actually now lots of the solutions are based on Fitbit or some other smartwatches like Apple Watch. But actually, when people are trying to utilize it for the elderly, what's going to happen is that elderly really do not want to wear this kind of things, especially during night. And they feel really uncomfortable and they take it off, the smartwatches, and doctors cannot monitor patients, especially dementia patients. When they want to monitor it, actually eSkin is the best solution. We already have qualified the comfortability test for the even dementia patients at the Essen University Hospital based in Germany. And we already have some lots of solutions for dementia monitoring only for the hospital, but now we are focusing on for a commercial consumer market. Second thing is the fall detection. Of course, there are many fall detection devices, and that's fine. Actually, it works very well. But when we want to distinguish trip and fall from slip and fall, actually the regular wristwatch type fall detection system is not quite suitable because they cannot see if the users are falling down in front or onto the back. So especially for the slip and fall, doctor really needs to take care of the risk of the traumatic brain injury, TBI, which may cause the large injury, and so that they have to do CT or MRI, so it's resulting in the large cost in the healthcare providers. So if they can recognize trip and fall or slip and fall, actually that one can reduce the cost. And also for users, they can really better monitor by this kind of solution. And actually e-skin can do these things. The last thing, actually this one has the largest impact for the economic impact, and which is the rehabilitation. Especially after the patients discharged from the hospital, they go back to the home. But most of the patients has such a large motivation to keep their training, like rehabilitation at home, and then so they do not move very much, especially for the elderly people, since they have some issue on their leg or foot or something, and then they really do not want to move at home. So actually they lose their function, which they got during their staying in the hospital, and they have to go back to the hospital. In the US, it is announced that from the APTA, American Physiotherapist Association. So it creates the $26 billion due to this issue, and then so it creates a large cost for healthcare providers. So now what we really need to do is to monitor the elderly rehabilitation at home to keep their performance. Okay, so let me show one of the solution, online monitoring with e-skin. So we already have this pajamas, and actually this gentleman is wearing the loungewear, not pajama. So when he fall down on the floor like this, and we can send an alert directly from our device to the smartphone with the caregiver, and they can know that if something happens, and they can make a contact with this elderly if he's okay or not. In the case of the slip and fall like this, we can recognize slip and fall and trip and fall. At the same time, as I mentioned, that the elderly need to train to keep their muscle, and then so we can motivate them for to keep their muscle, like a walk, please walk more or something like that, by using the smart speaker or something. At night, yes, we can monitor them. So by switching e-skin hub in the pajamas, in the loungewear to the pajamas, and we can monitor them even at night, like this. So what we can do, we can monitor fall detection, as I already explained. We can monitor heart rate. Even this gentleman is wearing the undershirt beneath the pajamas, but still we can monitor his heart rate. Respiration rate, yes, we can monitor. And we can monitor temperature in bed. And we can recognize the sleeping stage, like a light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep with using these devices. Then, one more thing. There's one big advantage in night nursing. There are so many solutions, especially based on the bed sensor or mattress sensor, to monitor if the patient or elderly are leaving from bed. But that solution cannot recognize if the users went to toilet or left the building. But this, if especially dementia patients may leave from the building, which may cause a huge trouble. But if we put the sensor on their body, actually we can monitor where they are staying with using beacon function. So this solution can reduce workload of the nurses at night very largely. It has a great impact on nurses' workload. Okay, so one more thing that I'm going to propose to you is the healthy longevity with e-skin. So let me show you one more video. We already have developed a very accurate motion capture system. This guy is wearing a black tight under the pants. And this pants is the highly accurate motion capture system. The algorithm is provided by the German Artificial Intelligence Center, and we are working together to create the system. we believe that this is the most easy, quick, and accurate motion capture system in the world for now. Actually, we can start this measurement only with 30 seconds. We don't need any cameras, anything else except the PC and pens. So you don't need to care about where you can measure because you can just bring all the system to the place and you can just start the measurement like this. So as you may know that Kinect or some other camera systems can do the similar thing, but especially for analyzing the gait behavior or motion capture behavior in terms of the rehabilitation, we have to monitor the rotation like this. And the camera system is not really good at measuring the rotation, like inner rotation, like external rotation. But this system can do that. That's a great advantage compared with the existing camera system. Okay, so we can just be using this. So we can do the gait analysis, very accurate gait analysis with just wearing the skin. So since we can do the motion capture, and so we can calculate the whole gait factors only with 10 steps walking. Okay, now I'm showing you on the right-hand side what kind of parameters we can create. Actually, we have 205 factors only from 10 steps measurement. And the top one is a 5.3 kilometers per hour is a walking velocity. And second thing, a right and left tendency, like how balanced the right-hand side, right side and left side. The third thing is a balance. Fourth thing is a stumbling, and like with from the minimal toe clearance. And the last thing is a stride. So we can have many factors. We can calculate many factors. Let me show you one thing, which is the minimum toe clearance estimation. So minimum toe clearance is related to the fall risk. And then so we can measure this MTC very accurately. So if you walk, we have two phases. One is a stance phase, your foot is on the ground. And the other is a swing phase, your foot is in the air. So in the swing phase, not so many people notice, but actually our trace of our foot is something like this. And we have the minimum place in the middle, and this is defined as the minimum toe clearance, which may cause the fall. Okay, so now since we can measure this MTC according to this algorithm, and we can calculate some MTC, the accuracy would be less than 2 centimeters. So what we can do, let me show you one slide. Okay, so this is a video which we did in Japan. Actually, in Tokyo, we have one new train station near Shinagawa Station. You may not know. And now there was a one big event to open the station, and we have exhibited the kind of a preliminary service trial for 5 days. So this guy is walking from the left side to the right-hand side, right? And if you see in the center, there's a monitor, and we can monitor his walking behavior almost at the real time, like this. And then with using this data, and we can calculate his gait factors very quickly. And we gave him this kind of a report. Sorry, it's in Japanese, but it's speed, stumbling, balance, and so on and so forth. And we scored him like his walking behavior is something like penguin, like this. For 5 days, we could measure over 300 people. Actually, it was 324 people. And then so actually the performance is over 10 people can be measured in 1 hour. So it's very easy and easy to use, easy to execute in any places. Once you can bring it to anywhere. Okay, so it's a bit too early, but this is the final slide. And this is the we can utilize this e-skin system for elderly care. One is a frailty evaluation, just like I showed you in the slides, like gait behavior. Actually, gait performance is really has a large correlation to the frailty performance, and we can evaluate the frailty. So second thing is a remote rehabilitation. Since we can know what sort of a training or what sort of gait behavior the elderly is having at home, so of course we need to ask him to wear it, but once he wear it, we don't have to go there and we can monitor his performance. And as already showed you before, we also have the loungewear and pajamas, so we can also measure his how to say, the performance with wearing remote loungewear and pajamas. So we utilize all of those e-skins, and we can monitor elderly at home. And luckily, we have the distributors in Hong Kong. And if some audience are at the conference center, please come to see at Shun Hin booth, which is right beside the conference hall entrance or convention and exhibition hall 1C, booth number E01. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. First of all, I'm an epidemiologist. I focus more on disease rather than technology. But this is a kind of sharing how we apply technology that can help the disease. So my talk will start from disease and how we apply the technology. I think all of you agree that heart attack is a kind of silent killer because we don't have symptoms, but we can monitor blood pressure, and hypertension is a kind of signal that you have some problem in your heart and also in your blood vessels. So blood pressure is the measures of force applied to the artery wall, just like the blood lipid. If you have more fat in your vessel, your blood pressure will become high. Then it will a kind of signal that will increase the chance of the heart disease. Therefore, we suggest we should regularly monitor our blood pressure. This is the traditional device that we can do it at home or even in the social worker networks in the community centers. This is the guideline from this year, in fact. We still recommend the traditional types of blood pressure device that can capture the BP reading along the time. But beware, we have a good positions. When you measure the blood pressures, we don't suggest you to keep talking, climb and for 3 to 5 minutes, and with good positions sitting on the chair. When you hear a lot of technology, including the wearable device or other technology or AI or machine learning to measure the blood pressure, this is feasible, but not yet with the FDA approval or not that on the standard. This is the traditional way that we capture the blood pressure. But what is the cutoff? When we read the blood pressure level, when your systolic blood pressure over 140 or systolic blood pressure over 90, we are classifying the patients have hypertension. But the guidelines change along the time. In American 2017, they suggest the cutoff change to 130 for the systolic blood pressure. But Asia and European keep the original guideline 140 for the SBP. In Hong Kong, we have aligned the cutoff with the Asia group. You can see that in this table from the governmental document. You can see that over 140 is the cutoff point for the hypertensive patients. But you may ask, how many times or how many blood pressure records that we use to develop this cutoff? Usually in Hong Kong, we suggest have 3 times of BP reading and take an average. And we predict to confirm your blood pressure situations within 2 months. This is the situation in Hong Kong, the prevalence of hypertension. In Hong Kong, we have around 7 million of populations, but in fact, around millions of them are in hypertension. And this is the trend over the past 10 years. You can see that it increased so fast. The main reason because we have the aging populations and more people getting older, and this is a normal situation that they will got hypertension. And this is the age cutoff. Age is not just an factor. In fact, lifestyle, other diet may also be risk factors for the Hypertension, in here you can see that even middle age 45 to 54, the percentage is around 10%. It's a very important issue in the coming future because aging populations and this group of people will be getting worse later. Unfortunately, I have another bad news to you is that we have another millions of population that are undiagnosed. That means they measure their blood pressure first time, they find that the BP level is quite high. And this is another millions of populations. So the market is so huge. We have 7 millions of populations and 2 millions or above are on this risk group. Blood pressure management is very important. So in Canada, even have a more detailed guideline. They suggest the clinical level cutoff and also home monitoring. Why? Because some people say that, and this is true, that white coat effect. The people measure the blood pressure in the clinic, they may feel nervous and seeing the BP in front of nurse or doctors, normally they may have a little bit higher than the normal. So we put it as a white coat effect. So we suggest home monitoring. This is the suggestions from Canadian guideline. We take the home blood pressure levels at 135. And also we take home BP measure from morning and evening time and 2 weeks and overall before you see a family physician. So the data is very important. We're just not focusing on 1 or 2 time points of your blood pressure level. We are focusing on how we manage our blood pressure value. So I'm a teacher in the university. In fact, we also do community service. This is a service that we do in Hong Kong for the community blood pressure management program. The participants will invite to have the survey, some baseline characteristics, and they request to have BP measures more than 3 times per week. And also, if we find they have abnormal BP reading, we will suggest some telecaring service. That means the nursing and the social worker will call them to see whether they have some problems on the medications used or they are not active enough so that the situation or the hypertensive situation becomes worse. This is a map of Hong Kong. You can see the coverage is almost everywhere in our city. And it served more than 5,000 participants, and this project launched 2016 and in 80 community centers. This experience, we learn a lot from this experience because we start to read the blood pressure not just 1 or 2 time points. We follow the people over the years, or even in these examples, we follow them for 36 months, 3 years. And we find that the blood pressure, in fact, it will change along the time. We don't use a mean cutoff because average blood pressure sometimes affected by the outlier. Sometimes you have fluctuations of your BP level. So we put these suggestions have a proportion of hypertensive record. That means if you measure 10 times, 5 times over 140, it will belong to the high-risk group. And in this, we take a 12-month as an example. We can see that if we have taken good monitoring of the blood pressure with some support from the social workers, you can see that the high-risk group will reduce a lot from 30% to around 15%. So this is a quite amazing result that, in fact, we can do a lot of things to control our blood pressure. And this is a research experience. We find this is useful and helpful for the patients. More than that, we have more data. We have more blood pressure. We also develop the blood pressure variability level through the machine learning. Machine learning means that seems too fancy, but sometimes we don't know how to classify the patients with the blood pressure variability. Those with higher variability, it implies a higher risk for the cardiovascular event. This is a machine learning model. In Hong Kong, we find out around 1 out of 7, they are classified into high level blood pressure variability. In this picture, you can see that the upper one is the high blood pressure variability. When we have the blood pressure along the time, you can see it will fluctuate ups and downs. But on the other hand, if we find a stable, relatively stable subjects, they have blood pressure level quite stable if they are from below 140, we are quite sure that the blood pressure control is very good. Lesson learned from this community project. It seems very good because this station can encourage the engagement between the social workers and the patients. And at the same time, they are quite trust because they don't need to record the blood pressure or data upload to the cloud. But we find some drawbacks. It is quite expensive. Sometimes they don't know how to take the records when the service is out of office hour, or even like now in COVID-19. The center may close, and at the end, the elderly may not find a place to measure the blood pressure data and then automatically upload it to the cloud. So this is some drawbacks. That's why we find out a digital solution called HealthCap. This is a startup company supported by CHK. We, through the knowledge transfer department, we apply what we learned from our research and also from our service model and develop this company. Very simple. In the very traditional way, the elderly can record their blood pressure through paper and pencil format. They can jot down all the details in the paper. But if you see the details of this, you can find out some missing or incorrect writing on the sheet. Although this is really good organized presentation format, but still there's some error. On the other hand, if we look for some accurate device, of course we use cloud, but this station is not cheap. And also, if we put in somewhere not at home, then we need to see the opening hour of that service. Combine them, we develop an app. We call HealthCap. You can use this QR code to download the apps free of charge. But now it's just limited to the Hong Kong populations because we are doing something to serve the Hong Kong. And we use a lot of techniques, including data science, machine learning. But what's that? Let me play a video to show it. Please, yeah. Okay, I think this video shows you a very simple concept. We just use a camera to take a picture on your blood pressure device, and then all the data, we're using the image recognition technique to extract the numbers and upload to the cloud. So that's why I say that this is a free service within a personal use of these apps to record your blood pressure data. This is simple use and quite accurate, and some training sessions for the elderly, even age over 70, they can use their apps to save this record and upload to the cloud. And at the same time, we also develop family engagement version. We do not believe that you can have good management by yourself. We do believe that we have a network. Your family support, your social worker support can help you. So we develop a connected apps. You can have apps to review your father, your mother together and compare how the average level and also the report. With the apps with individual and family members, of course, we also develop the portals for the doctors and social workers. This is the portals that we have health report on the left-hand side and some family comparison on the right-hand side. In the middle is a kind of central portal that we can generate some remind SMS or remind message and overview of your situations for your doctors and also for your healthcare givers. This is our ultimate goal. We are not just an app. We are not just highlight the image recognition technique. We are highlight the network of support. We need the people use our platform in family and also in the community. The central portal can help you connect even the different people around Hong Kong. This is our visions. And this is very important why we produce the blood pressure records or report. If you don't have an app or your mobile have no battery, we still have physical health report you can bring to your doctors. And they can adjust how, because this report can review 14 days or even 14 years of your blood pressure records if you want. This is automatically generated of how many blood pressure you capture, and then you can have flexibility to decide the length of follow-up of your blood pressure data. You can show in front of your doctors. Then it will be very helpful for the doctors to prescribe the drugs and also recommend any activities for you to control for your blood pressure. Of course, we never forget social worker is important, because many people think that if I have hypertension, I don't want to start medications. So that's why social worker is important to use this data to suggest you better diet, doing exercise, or even join their social engagement project that may also help for your blood pressure. This is around the summary of what we have. We have the blood pressure report, and based on this report, based on the data, we can classify you into different groups. With less group, that means you don't care about it, your blood pressure management is quite good. Lesser group, you have some times to put on your blood pressure management, but not quite emergent. But the caring group is the high-risk group that we define, 10 times, more than 5 times over 140. If this group, we will recommend to see doctors, and also closer monitoring your blood pressure will help to prevent some cardiovascular disease. The picture below, I think you can see that this is what we learned from our community program. We do believe that this is helpful when you do the blood pressure management correctly. It will helpful to reduce your risk level. And at the end, it will reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. So how we can manage hypertension? 2 dimensions. One is the modifiable risk factor, including unhealthy diet, smoking, drinking, of course, lack of exercise, and stress. But unfortunately, some are non-modified risk factor, aging, family history of hypertension, and coexisting of other disease. So you may feel that seems so complex to manage your blood pressure, but monitor is simple and easy. So this is why we have this product to serve the community, and hope that more people will accept to monitor the blood pressure. It doesn't mean that we have start medication earlier. Just monitor and see what we can do next step. So this is about our presentations, and HealthCap is our product, and Deep Health is the data analytics agency to help to provide better service of our platform. So thanks again for the invitation of this talk. Thank you.